Good afternoon, dear students. You all are watching Pradhan Mantri eVidya channel number 11 and our YouTube channel NCERT Official. And I am Kusum Prasad. So, students and learners, we are going to learn today English for class 11. And the topic is Appreciating Poetry, Laburnum Top and the Photograph. And to teach this subject and to explain these two poetries, our expert is Mrs. Gayatri Khanna. Welcome, ma'am. Namaskar.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am is ELT expert and consultant. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, dear students and learners, if you have any questions, any queries, any suggestions regarding this today's topic, you can send your messages to our phone number, that is 8800440559. You can also see on your TV screens. And you can also send your messages and you can mail us on our email ID, that is dth.class11@ciet.nic.in. And along with this, you can also drop your messages on our YouTube channel, that is NCERT Official. So, dear students and learner, I hope you all are ready to learn English for class 11. So, let's move to ma'am, our expert. Gayatri ma'am, let's begin our today's session, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll begin with a photograph, which is of course, as madam just introduced, it's a poem that you have in class 11. So Photograph is a poem written by Shirley Thompson. So before we talk of the poem, let's talk about the poet. Now Shirley Thompson is an English writer, poet, journalist, and she was also a local politician. She was member of the group, that is a group of poets who wrote informal poetry in London in 1950s and 60s. Her work was published in a group anthology. She also wrote a book. Her first book was The Doers, Roads of Wales, and then after that she wrote several books which became very popular. And a photograph is a very interesting poem that we will start talking about it right away. So before I read the poem and explain the poem to you, so let me first tell you what is the poem about. The mother of the poet, the poet talks about her mother when she was young. So when the mother was young, she had gone out paddling with her cousins Betty and Dolly. She was little older than her cousins. So when she was young, she had a sweet face, and obviously the age it takes its toll. By the time her daughter was born, that is the poet, when she was born, age had started taking over. That sweetness of the child had almost started disappearing, but even when she's looking at it, the face had changed, the mother's face had changed, but the sea remained unchanged. They were paddling, they were at the sea beach, they were at the seashore, but the sea remained the same. So here we get to know what is the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is transience of life. Life is temporary, but nature is permanent. Just as the sea did not change, but the poet, she became old and she passed, the mother became old and she passed away. So therefore, you get to know that there is transience. Life changes, it dies, it withers away. But the nature, it remains the same. The sea watched their transient feet. We'll talk about the transient feet when we're explaining the poetry. This is temporariness, the transience of life, the short life. The mother is now dead. The poet recalls, she's talking about her mother, how 20 or 30 years later, her mother would look at the photographs and recall with amusement how as young girls they had been dressed for the beach. So you've got to know, when you're looking at the poem, please remember, we have to talk about the setting. Where does it take place? We have to talk about the mood of the poem. Whether it's a happy poem, it's nostalgic, whether it's painful memories. So we'll keep talking about the mood as we talk about the poetry. The mother was nostalgic about the holiday, which means she missed her past. Then she was at the beach with her cousins, and the poet felt that she when she relived the memories of her mother, she was happy, but there was a little bit of pain because the mother had passed away now. The memories of the mother's laughter were a thing of the past now. The mother had died a long time ago, and now she had lived without her mother for almost half her life. With the passage of time, there is a muting silence because death of a close person in the family, it has no words to express. It's muting silence, it's deafening silence. No words can express adequately the pain of the poet about losing the mother. So now let's talk about the poem. We'll talk paragraph, the stanza by stanza, and we'll talk about also about the poetic devices and also about the tone and mood, as I had just said. The cardboard shows me how it was. Very interestingly, she calls the picture, the photograph, cardboard. Why does she call it a cardboard? Because the mother is dead. Now it's not about life, it is about past. It's just been reduced to a bit of paper. It's a moment which has been captured. When two girl cousins went paddling. Paddling is in the water when they're flapping their hands and feet. Two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands. And she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So now what do you get to know? There's this poet, the poet, she's looking at the cardboard, which is actually a photograph. She looks at the two cousins, Dolly and Betty. They were the younger ones. The mother was little older, who was about 12 years at that time. And the photograph shows that they are at a beach. And they are holding mother's hands from either side. Two girls, younger than the mother, who is about 12. So please understand the setting of the poem. That's the scene which has been captured in the photograph. The description, the first stanza, it deals with the photograph, the scene captured in the photograph. The word cardboard has been used because it's a piece of paper now. Mother is dead, and what is remaining is an insignificant paper. All three stood to smile through their hair. When you say all three, it is mother and her two cousins, both holding her hand. They smile through the hair because the girls, it's windy, the hair's messy, the hair's all over the face, and all the three are happy. They're smiling through the hair. At my uncle with the camera. So you get to know who clicked the photograph. The photograph was clicked by the uncle who was holding the camera, and he had taken these three girls to a beach. A sweet face, my mother's, that was before I was born. The mother was a young girl at that point of time, 12 years old. So before the poet was born, the mother had a very sweet face. That means as you start aging, your beauty, it starts deteriorating. And the sea, which appears to have changed less. The sea has not changed. It's still looking the same. The sea is there because nature takes a very, very long time to change. So it's almost permanent. Washed their terribly transient feet. The sea washed their terribly transient feet. Transient is short-lived, feet. Now see, actually, feet are not transient. Transient is an adjective. Transient means temporary. So when the adjective is put somewhere, it's actually transience of life, basically, that they're talking about. The figure of speech or the literary device is transferred epithet. Epithet is an adjective. Transferred, it's been transferred somewhere else. Synecdoche. Synecdoche is a literary device when we use a part for the whole. It's not only transient feet. Only feet are not temporary. It's the life which is temporary. So when you use part for the whole, the figure of speech is called synecdoche. So you have the first stanza that we talked about where the poet looks at the cardboard, recalls that her mother was a young lady at that time, looking very sweet with the sea. At the sea, the three girls paddling. Now in the second stanza, the uncle had taken, the mother had a sweet face. While the mother is no longer with her, she's dead and gone. The C is permanent. So the mother's recollection of her childhood, the poet now recalls the mother who is dead. The camera has captured the poet's mother and the two cousins. What is the name of the two cousins? Betty and Dolly, which you get to know in the third stanza, went paddling. They were holding the poet's mother's hand. The elder of the two was about 12, that is, the mother was about 12 years. The three of them stood smiling with hair which was disheveled because of the wind at the sea. Something that has not changed at all over the years, because it's going to, as I said, nature is almost permanent. It takes a lot of time to change. As compared to the sea, which seems unchanged, life is transient. Life is temporary. The mother has been dead for years now. So therefore, this is called contrast. Temporary contrasted with the permanent. Sea is permanent. Life is transitory. So therefore, the figure of speech over here is contrast. Some 23rd stanza, some 20, 30 years later, she'd laugh at the snapshot. That is the mother. She looked at her photograph and she laughed at the snapshot. See, Betty and Dolly, she would say that look, Betty and Dolly, that was the name of her two cousins, and look how they dressed us for the beach. That time the mother could no longer dress like a child the way they had dressed them, and obviously fashions, everything changes, and with age you dress differently. So the mother was happy when she looked at the photograph and recalled those memories with happiness. The sea holiday was her past and mine her laughter. Now this is what the poet feels, that she laughed at the sea holiday with nostalgia. She missed it. That was her past. Mine is her laughter. Her over here is the poet's mother. Her laughter is thing of the past because the mother is now no longer alive. Both rhyme with labored ease of loss. Now rhyme actually can mean amusement and disappointment. Over here it means disappointment. Both rhyme with labored ease. Labored ease, two words which are looking opposite but have a deeper meaning. The figure of speech is called oxymoron. Labored ease because it takes an effort to forget her mother, because it's very difficult to forget your family once they are no longer with you. Ease because time has elapsed. So it's no longer as painful as it was once upon a time. So there is laboring to forget her mother. She finds it very difficult to forget her mother, but there is a certain bit of ease which has set in now because the mother is dead for a long time and she's coming to terms with the absence of her mother. Therefore, there is a bit of ease. Now, repeating what we said in the stanza, the mother laughed at the fleeting moments that had long passed when they were kids. She relived the memories when they were dressed as children and taken out. She relives her happy memories. But for this poet, it's not easy because she is reliving the past with her mother. The mother is dead. Now, the last stanza, now she's been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived. The girl had lived for 12 years when the photograph had been taken. Now the mother has been dead nearly almost the same time. That means over a decade has crossed for the mother has died. And of this circumstance, the death of the mother, there is nothing to say. There is nothing to say about the death of the mother. The reason is no words are enough to express a loss which is as tough as that of losing a parent or losing someone in the family. It's silences, personification. And look at the paradox. Silences. The silence, the muting silence of death, there are no words to express it. The silence or the pain caused by the death of the mother has silenced her. There are no words to express. So basically, this muting silence without any words, that's what she's expressing. This stanza, it philosophizes death. Life is transient. and she's coming to terms with the fact that the mother has been dead for a very long time. She cannot get over the death of the mother, but there is a little bit of ease which has set in because that gnawing pain of death has now disappeared into something which is easier to tolerate. Now, we are talking about the poem. We are talking of the main idea and the central ideas. Mother, see, first we talk about the setting. There are two settings in this poem. One is in the photograph and one is with the poet. The photograph is about the sea holiday, and now at home, she's looking at the photograph. That's another setting. Mother had been out for a sea holiday years back, and she was nostalgic about it. She missed it. She really enjoyed being there. And the poet felt when, and the other is the memory felt by the poet when she recalled the mother's death. It was painful to recall that time, and the circumstance of death is that of the mother. That the mother experienced a real situation which made her happy. And in the second poem, the poet is not very happy because the mother's become a thing of the past for her. She is no longer alive. Now, when we just recap the poem for a minute, the poet recalls her late mother as she gazes at the photograph of her mom along with her cousins, Betty and Dolly, in their pre-teens. Teens is at 13, so the mother was 12 and the little two girls were younger. The photo was of their visit to a sea beach when the mother had the sweetness of a young girl. Transient feet refers to the transience of life, temporariness of life. She recalls how her mom looked at the photograph 20, 30 years later. She laughed at the clothes that they wore, at the attire or the clothes that the cousins and she were wearing. The sea holiday was a thing of the past for her, for the mother, just as her smiling face had become a thing of the past for the poet. Both of them, mom and poet, had to move on despite losses. Mother moved on from that period of life into an age when that happy moment had become a memory. But now, 12 years later, there is an emptiness, there is a void in the life of the poet, and there is a silence, there is a gloom. The mother recalled happy memories, whereas the poet is recalling very sad memory. The main idea here is that death can numb you. It can leave you at a loss of words. We talked in terms of silences. There are no words to express the loss of death of a dear one. The second is the mother missed her past and found it amusing, whereas the daughter missed her past with the mother because the mother was dead. While the mother was happy, amused when she recalled her past, the poet isn't happy when she's recalling the past where she had spent with her mother. The word transient feat has a special significance because it shows that human life is temporary as compared to nature. So the poet has realized that she has lost her mother. So there is a labored ease of loss. Labored ease, it's difficult to forget her mother and put her past behind and move on. There is a sense of ease which I just talked because time has reduced that pain a bit. It has been over a decade since the mother died. Therefore, the pain which she had felt at the death of mother is slightly reduced. You can't get over the pain, but the pain is reduced after the mother's death. Now, very typically talking of the literary devices which are being tested for you in your exams, transferred epithet. As I said, epithet means an adjective. Transferred, it is placed on a different, wash them terribly transient feet. Feet only, it's not transient feet, life is transient. And it's synecdoche, part for the whole. Silence silences. Silence is silencing. It's given the human quality of silencing, therefore it's personification. Alliteration, you know, it is the repetitive sound. Stood to smile, or terribly transient. Silence silences. It's a repetitive sound. Oxymoron, two seemingly opposite words which convey a deeper meaning. So it was labor, ease of loss. So here is what the poem is about.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what does the word cardboard denote in this poem? Why this word has been used?
The word cardboard over here refers to the photograph. It has been used because the life has gone out. The mother is dead and gone. The paper, it signifies that life has gone. It's just reduced to a bit of paper. Therefore, it is being called the cardboard.
Okay, ma'am. Next question is, what has the camera captured?
The camera has captured the three girls where the mother was the elder one. They are at sea. It was captured by the uncle, and two girls, her cousins Betty and Dolly, were holding her hands from either side.
Okay, ma'am. What has not changed over the years? Does this suggest something to you, ma'am?
Yes, that's right. The sea has not changed over the years. This suggests that the sea remains the same through generations, while on the life is transient. It's temporary. It changes quickly. We are born, we become young, we grow up, and then we die. So permanence of nature as compared to temporariness in life.
Yes, ma'am. Next question is, the poet mother laughed at this snapshot. What does it indicates, ma'am?
The mother laughed at the snapshot because she was nostalgic. She remembered the happy memory of her childhood when she had gone. She also was amused looking at the clothes that they wore and the memory, the way she was dressed. So she recalled those happy memories. Therefore, she laughed.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, what is the meaning of the line, both thrive with the labored ease of loss?
Yes, that's right. Mother had been out for a sea holiday and she felt nostalgic about it. But when the poet lived the memory of that with her mother, of the mother, both the memories were beautiful. However, it was painful to recall the memory of the mother because she had died.
Yes, ma'am. There is a word mentioned, this circumstance. What does it refer for, ma'am?
This circumstance refers to the death of the mother and says of this circumstance there is nothing to say because it's such a painful circumstance, the death of the mother, that there is nothing much that the poet can say about it. No words to express the grief.
Yes, ma'am. In this poetry, there are three stanzas that depict different phrases. What are they, ma'am?
The first stanza, it depicts the description of the photograph when it was the mother's childhood. The second deals with recollections. The mother when she was grown up and had a daughter, but she recollected her childhood. And the third dwells on the transience of life because the mother is dead and gone and only a piece of paper has been left behind.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, let's take some questions from the stanzas. I would like to ask the question from first stanza.
Yes.
Let's move to ma'am first stanza. Here it is written cardboard. What does the cardboard denote?
The cardboard is a piece of paper now because the life has gone out of there. It is a photograph.
And what is seen on the cardboard?
Cardboard is the mother with her two cousins, Betty and Dolly.
And what were they doing, ma'am?
They were paddling in the sea, at the beach. And they were holding the mother's hand, both on either side, Dolly and Betty.
But why they were holding the mother's hand?
Because the mother was the elder cousin and they were the two younger girls.
There is also mentioned, there is uncle also mentioned in this chapter. What was the uncle doing in this first stanza, ma'am?
The uncle was taking a photograph of the three girls as they were enjoying themselves on the beach.
And where is the mother now?
The mother is now dead.
Oh. So we can find out many questions from the first stanza, and one more question is, all three stood still, smiled through their hairs. What does it suggest, ma'am?
It means means that they were smiling. The hair was on their faces because of the breeze. They are at the seaside, they are outside. So the hair has been tousled by the breeze. That is what it suggested.
There are two other girls also. Who are they?
Betty and Dolly, mother's cousins.
Okay, ma'am, fine. Let's move to second stanza.
Yes.
Who is I in these lines?
The mother.
Okay, and what did she feel?
Sorry, the poet. Sorry, I was born. So it's the mother, it's the poet. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's the poet.
Yes.
I stand for the poet.
Yes, I stands for the poet.
And what does she feel about her mother?
She is very sad about her mother because the mother is now dead and it's only a memory that has been left behind.
And what is that has not changed for her?
The sea has not changed. The sea is permanent compared to life.
And what is that has been changed?
What has been changed is life. The mother has become old and died.
What is suggested by the word transient feat?
Transient feat is temporariness of life. As I said that this is Synecdoche, part for the whole. Feat over here is a part for the life. So temporariness of life, that is what is meant by.
Ma'am, there is a word wash their terribly transient feet. So
Yes.
what is the poetic device used in?
Two poetic devices, transferred epithet and synecdoche, which we have just explained.
Okay, ma'am. Let's move to the third stanza. Some 20-30 years. Here, who is the she is in these lines?
She over here is the mother.
And what was she is looking at?
She is looking at the photograph where she and her two cousins had gone for a sea holiday.
And who were Betty and Dolly?
Betty and Dolly were the cousins who went with her to the sea holiday.
Okay. And why they are amused?
Why
she was amused?
Mother was amused because she recalled her childhood and the childhood pleasures, and she was also amused because the way they had dressed them for the beach.
We want to know what are the two things that are matter of past.
The sea holiday was the past for the mother, and mother's smile is a past for the poet because she's now dead.
My next question is, what is suggested by the labored ease of loss? And name the poetic device also, ma'am.
Oxymoron and the labored ease of loss is, it is difficult to forget somebody in your family. Put your past behind and move on. Ease of loss, over there eases because it's been more than a decade. So that sharp, acute pain that she felt when the mother had died is slightly easing out now.
Okay, let's move to the fourth stanza and the last stanza. And my question is, who has been dead many years?
The mother has been dead many years.
Here is written, as that girl lived. Who is that girl?
That girl is the mother. She had lived for 12 years and now the mother has been dead for almost 12 years.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, why does the poet say, as that girl lived?
That is for the number of years that girl had lived. That girl had lived for almost 12 years when the photograph was taken. Now she has been dead for almost 12 years.
In the last paragraph, it is written, its silence silences. Please explain this to our students and also name the poetic device used here.
The poetic device is personification, and it is silence is given the human quality of silencing somebody. So therefore, silence silences. It means that the silence of death, it's muting. There are no words to express the pain caused by the silence of death or the pain of death.
Okay, ma'am. I think we have done all the possible questions from this chapter. Let's move on to our next chapter, that is the Laburnum top.
Thank you so much. I think you have asked all the questions that can possibly be asked in the exams as well.
Student can prepare from this session and they can answer all the questions from this chapter very easily, ma'am.
That's right. That's right.
And you have explained very well, ma'am.
Thank you so much for so actively asking every question, every possible question. Like, okay, the laburnum top. Now, the second poem today is the laburnum top. Laburnum is the name of the tree. Ted Hughes is the poet. If you remember that Sylvia Plath, a very famous poet, he was married to her. He was her husband, Ted Hughes, and he is a very, very well-known poet. In fact, he has often been regarded as the greatest poet of his time. So we'll just talk about this. Let's talk about this Ted Hughes. It's a modern poet. It's translator and children's writer. He's written very, very interesting stories for children, and the critics frequently ranked him as one of the best poets of his generation and one of the 20th century's greatest writers. He was appointed Poet Laureate. As you know, Poet Laureate is the highest honor given to a poet in England, and he held that office until his death. And another person, as you know, Wordsworth, an equally well-read and an equally celebrated poet. So this is the greatest honor that we give to a poet over there. Now come to the poem. Laburnum. So the name is the laburnum top. So the laburnum is a tree. This tree is called a laburnum. As you can see, it has small little tiny yellow plants. It says bunches of yellow plants. It's called amalthas in India. It may be called different things in different languages, but it has those small yellowing. It's a tree, not a very tall tree. Yellow flowers, and they resemble the structure of a pea. Tiny flowers which hang down in bunches. The second character in this poem is goldfinch. Finch is a very common bird. In India also you have that finch which flies around the whole day, that brownish kind of a small bird. Finch is a very, very common species, and this is a very chirpy bird. As you know, we have a brown finch, and this poem is written in England, so that's where they have a goldfinch. There's a red finch also. So this bird in different colors exists almost across the world. Now here we have to see the setting. As I said, the setting can change, the mood can change. So like there, you had Betty and Dolly and Mother, very happy. Then the poet remembers, the poet becomes sad. So the mood keeps changing. Now here also the same thing. The mood first is sad, then it suddenly becomes very happy. And in the last line, it goes back to quiet, still, sad. So we begin the poem. It's a bright September afternoon. The laburnum, which is a very short tree, as I said, with hanging branches, and they are yellowing flowers. It is soundless and motionless. Please look, this poem is going to deal with a lot of visual and verbal images. The tree is soundless. There is no sound over there. And it's afternoon, it's September. September, as you know, is autumn, where the leaves are shedding. And it's like pessimistic, very quiet, dull, pessimistic kind of a feel. A few leaves that have yellowed. So there are leaves which are yellowing because just before winter they yellow and then they shed their leaves. Some seeds lay scattered around it. So what is the color of the seeds? It's yellow. September, sunlight, yellow. The flowers are yellow. So there is a question in your book which asks you, what is the color of the poem? The color of the poem is yellow. And all of a sudden, this singing bird, the goldfinch, comes with yellow feathers on its wings. It arrives chirping. See, there's motion because movement, great movement which is added, and she's coming and she's chirping. So she enters the foliage like a lizard. How does a lizard walk? The lizard crawls smoothly, glides. So she enters foliage's thickness like a lizard, smooth, watchful, hastily. She glides in. As she enters, the tree suddenly seems to come alive, starts up like a machine. There was what you can hear is shrill sound of twittering, and the trees seem to quiver with joy. Look at the quiet, motionless trees. Suddenly it's come alive. The mother bird, that is the goldfinch which comes, it's like an engine of a family. She comes to her nest, to her babies. She's added life to the tree and flitted from branch to branch, showing her striped face. Why do we call it striped face? And look, this is the stripe on her face. So she shows a stripe which is very peculiar to the face. It's yellow and black. And then finally, with a low whistle, she flies off to the sky again, and the laburnum becomes quiet like it was before the arrival of the finch. So basically, we have three over there, three things which are happening there. First is that the tree is quiet and silent, and then comes the bird. The tree suddenly comes alive, and then finally, after all that sound and noise which is created by the bird, when she flies away into the sky, the tree becomes very quiet again. So you see the three moods which are going to change as we talk about this poem. Now, when you look at the structure, this has, like the previous poem that you did, had a definite structure. There were measured stanzas. Here, you have 4 stanzas. Second stanza is long with 9 lines, and the last stanza has only 1 line. So it is not a structured poem. As such, it has no rhyme scheme. So it's free verse. Something which doesn't have a rhyme scheme, it's a free verse. The lines are comparably short, depicting the shift of the movement in the poem. So now when we look at the poem, the first, it describes the laburnum when it's quiet. The laburnum top. Over here, top not only means the top of the tree, it means the whole exterior, the outer exterior is quite silent and still. Silent, there is no sound. Still, there is no movement. As I said here, you have to notice images. What are these images called? What you can look at, that imagery. What is imagery? It is basically something which appeals to the senses. What you can see is called visual imagery. What you can hear is called oral imagery or hearing imagery. So silent, it cannot be heard. Still, there is no movement. In the afternoon, yellow September sunlight. It is September, it's autumn, the leaves are falling, the leaves are yellowing, the seeds have fallen, and a few leaves yellowing and all its seeds fallen, because it's pessimistic. It's yellowed because it's autumn, and it is silent. Absolutely, there is no spontaneity. Leaves are appearing yellowish. The seeds have fallen. So if you look at the figures of speech, personification. Laburnum top is silent. Tree is supposed to be silent. It's inanimate. But here we are talking, it's personified. The top over here is a part for the whole. It's the entire tree is silent and still. Autumnal slumber, as it's called. In autumn, there is slow, like it's silent. There's no breeze. There is lack of spontaneity. Leaves appear yellower, seeds have fallen. So it's quiet, it's calm. There is a pessimistic note over here. So as I just said, leaves are yellow and pale. The top is still and silent. Month of September, which is autumn, the tree has shed its seeds and leaves, yellow leaves and the sunshine. The mood is silent and lifelessness. That's why we use the word pessimistic. So now suddenly what happens? Suddenly what happens? The goldfinch comes with a twitching chirrup. Now suddenly the mood has changed. The goldfinch has arrived and there's vibrance of life. That sadness, quietness, stillness, it has been taken over by the sound and movement of the bird. It's like the soul of a tree which is coming, and the tree has also become as if the tree is resonating with life. It makes a twitching chirrup. Twitching, you know, is the movement. Chirrup is the sound that not only alerts the tree, but also other creatures living on the tree. The goldfinch has come and set the tree alive by chirping and its motion. The mood has changed, if you know. A suddenness. Suddenly she's gliding. A startlement happened suddenly at the branch end. Actually, branch end outside. Then, as sleek as a lizard, and alert and abrupt. As means one point of comparison, so it is a simile. Only one point. What is that point? The movement is compared to that of a lizard, nothing else. The sign of life gets reflected in suddenness and startlement, and like a lizard, sleekly, undiscovered, safely, she's gliding into the tree. Now, why is she gliding into the tree? Because this bird is a symbol of motherhood. Though her nest is there with her little babies there, even if she was perhaps away in search of food. Now, what did we see in this part? The goldfinch bird comes and sets the tree alive by its chirping motion. The bird, with rapid movements, sits at one end of the branch, and as she moves to the end, her young ones start to chirp and make the tree come alive. They make a sound like the moving machine with their flapping wings. The bird's movement is compared to that of a lizard as she climbs in. Now, he enters the thickness. Thickness over here is the foliage of the tree, the cover of the tree, and a machine starts up. When you say machine starts up, unlike as a lizard, which is a simile, here machine is a metaphor. One is presumed to be the other. More than one point in common. Here, what is in common? What is in common is the sound as well as the movement of chittering, tremor of wings, and trillings. So there is sound, there is tremor of wings, that is the spontaneous shaking of the wing, and the whole tree trembles and thrills. The whole tree has become delighted with the presence of the bird. Onomatopoeia, you know what onomatopoeia are? Sound words which do not mean anything in themselves, but they are suggestive of the sound. Chirrup, chittering, trilling. These are basically, they resonate with the sound of the bird. Because of these movements, the tree gets movement, and it shakes and thrills and trembles. The tree which was quiet, which was almost dead and silent, and suddenly and it was lifeless, suddenly when the bird comes, it's to nurture the young ones, it gets all its life there. It's the engine of a family. She stokes it full, stoking, putting fuel into the engine, and then flirts out to a branch end. She's stoking she is like an engine to her family. And the other meaning which we also accept is that the nest and the bird are like an engine to the tree which has come alive. Both the explanations are acceptable. Showing her barred face identity mask. This also has two meanings. Both the interpretations are accepted in your examination. One is barred face, the line on her face, the black line that she has on her face, and that is her particular identity. The second is that through the foliage, her barred face, it's not a clear face, covered by leaves, that is shown. Whatever you feel suits you more or appeals more to you can be given as an explanation. Metaphor is used, as I said, in terms of a machine. It is an implied comparison between the mother goldfinch and the engine of a machine, while a simile has only one point in common. The metaphor has an implied comparison where there is more than one thing in common, and here it is sound as well as movement. And I said that this poem has a lot of images. The tree is a machine, and engine is none other than the goldfinch itself. Like the body and soul, the arrival changes the mood. The chittering tremor of wings, trillings reflect rejuvenation. So the goldfinch is the engine of a family and provides foods to the little one as she moves branch to branch. Her striped face or partial visibility, as I said, you could give both explanation from the branches. Her movements make the tree alive and it seems to tremble, and then with an eerie, delicate whistle chirrup whispering. Now, eerie, delicate, opposite words again. Eerie is mysterious, not very appealing, but over here it's supposed to be very appealing. It's eerie, it's mysterious, delicate whistle. It's very appealing. She launches away towards the infinite. Launches, takes away. Like we say, the aircraft launched. Okay? So launching, moving away towards the infinite. She's infinite over here is the sky. The figure of speech over here is metonymy. Metonymy, what is the difference in synecdoche that we did previously and metonymy? Metonymy is a symbol. For example, if we say the crown decided, we mean the king decided. It's a symbol. Part for the whole is synecdoche. Here, the infinite is metonymy for the sky. The sudden arrival and departure is also momentary. Suddenly she's come in, suddenly she has departed, just like entry of a soul into a body. Taking, and when she goes, it's again lifeless. So there is mixed sense of joy and tension in the poem. And look at the last line of the poem. And the laburnum, it subsides to empty. Once more the laburnum has become empty. It's again silent and quiet. The last line contains the metaphor that it depicts the absence of sound and symbolic reference to lifelessness. Now, let's please look at, just to recap the poem a bit. After reaching the end of the branch of the tree, the bird makes a very sweet chirping sound and it flies as she, like that eerie delicate, and she flies away, far away from the tree, leaving the tree again death-like, silent and still. So now over here in this poem, we must notice that we have images. They are oral and visual. Oral is what you can hear, visual is what you can see. The life that the goldfinch enthuses, that the tree is inanimate, and the life is given to the tree through the bird, which makes it tremble, and also there's a lot of sound. Now the other thing you have to notice is the contrast before and after the arrival of the bird and during that of the stay. It is silent in the beginning, silent at the end, and then when the bird comes, it has become very, it's come into life. Imagery, as I said, sound, words you have to notice. Chirrup, chittering, trilling, whistle, chirrup, whispering, movement, still, fall, it comes, enters, trembles, flirts out, launches away. And the dominant color of the poem is yellow. This is a question which has been asked to you at the back of this poem in the book. It's yellow September sunlight, leaves yellowing, even the goldfinch is yellow. In the beginning, the laburnum top is silent, leaves have turned yellowish and started to fall. It's the month of September, and the tree looks like death and is very quiet. Suddenly the tree becomes alive when the goldfinch comes to feed her young ones in the thickness of the branches, the chirping and the smooth motion like a lizard. As soon as she enters, the young ones start their movements like a machine and flap their wings. The tree springs into life when the bird enters, and as the bird flies away, it becomes passive once again. So if I have to talk in terms of the figures of speech, we have alliteration, which I don't have to talk about. It's the repetitive sound, September sunlight, tree trembles. Then simile we mentioned, sleek as a lizard, metaphor, the machine and the engine, and showing her barred face identity mask. Personification, the whole tree, lifeless tree, it comes into life. Transferred epithet. Again, the adjective has been transferred. A barred face identity mask. Oxymoron, as I said, that opposite words for a deeper meaning. Now just have a look at the themes. Autumnal change. Autumn, winter. As we say, spring, that is March, talks of life. Autumn is just, winter is death. It is pessimistic. It's coming close to death. Motherhood, arrival of the mother goldfinch, and it's also the mother nature that we are talking about. Then there is transience of natural beauty, departure of the goldfinch, beauty fades away. Then there is interdependence of the bird. There's a symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship of the tree and the bird. It's symbiotic. So whenever we discuss the poem, we know that we have to talk of the tone, mood, setting, title, and appreciation. So,
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you have very well explained this poem, Laburnum Top. Ma'am, what do you notice about the beginning and the ending of the poem?
That's a very good question. The beginning and the end is quiet, and it's like a whole circle. The poem comes to a circle that in the beginning the laburnum is silent. It's still in the September afternoon, and then when the goldfinch comes, it starts up like an engine, but then it again becomes empty and silent.
And what do you like most about the poem, about this poem, Laburnum Top, ma'am?
I think what I would like best is, one is the images. It is silent and then suddenly it becomes alive. And then the way the bird, it infuses the life into the tree, I think that's very interesting. And also the contrast of the life that the bird creates in the poem.
Okay, ma'am. Here one phrase has mentioned her bared face identity mask.
Yes,
what does this phrase means, ma'am?
This has two meanings. As I said, barred face is we can talk of the yellow and black marking on the face of the bird. That's one. And the other is also, we can say it was barred because of the foliage. It was being seen through the foliage. Therefore, it was not clearly visible. It was barred.
Ma'am, why is the image of the engine evoked by the poet?
This is a metaphor which the poet is using. It is because to show that the tree has become alive and there is sound and there is movement in the tree. That is why it has been evoked by the poet.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, to what is the bird's movement compared?
The movements of the bird is compared to that of a lizard, which comes very smoothly. It glides in hastily without being noticed, and the whole tree starts up.
And what is the basis for the comparison?
It's the movement, it's gliding, hasty, sleek, undisturbed.
Okay, ma'am, let's take questions from the stanzas also.
Right.
My first question is, what is the stillness disturbed by? Means here.
The stillness is disturbed by the coming of the bird.
Okay.
That is the goldfinch.
And what season is the poet talking about in this poem? Mention the words that suggest the seasons.
Yeah, it's September because the leaves have yellowed, seeds have fallen, the leaves are coming. There is September gold afternoon because over there you don't have sun all the time. So it is the sun also, it's in the afternoon. So this season suggested is September.
Mention the poetic device used in the laburnum top is silent, quite still. Why it has been used, ma'am?
It's alliteration to give it a poetic effect.
And mention the colors suggested by the poet. Also mention the words that suggest colors in this poem.
The color, as I said, is yellow, and it has been suggested through yellowing leaves. The goldfinch is yellow, the laburnum is yellow, the autumn sun is yellow. So all the colors mentioned over here are yellow.
Okay, ma'am, let's move to the second paragraph. The paragraph from the till the goldfinch comes. From this paragraph, I want to ask some questions, ma'am. What changes the entire scene completely?
The arrival of the bird, it changes the entire scene very quickly because she suddenly come and she startled the whole thing.
And what was the effect on the tree?
Sorry?
What is the effect on the tree?
The tree also starts up like an engine which was quiet still, has suddenly witnessed a lot of movement and there's a lot of sound inside.
And please also explain how does the bird enter the tree? And please tell poetic device also.
It is a simile. The bird, it glides into the tree. is unnoticed, undiscovered, safely she's gone in like a lizard. So only the movement is like a lizard, therefore the poetic device is a simile.
And here, what is the mood of the poet now and how it is suggested?
Yeah, the now here the poet is sounding happy because all that stillness which was pessimistic, which was lifeless, has suddenly started up, and it has been suggested that very happy moments through these kind of words, which says chittering, tremor of wings, trillings, and the whole tree trembles and thrills. All the onomatopic words, they suggest that it's a very happy moment.
Okay, ma'am. Here one line is mentioned, and a machine starts up. What is compared to a machine here?
The arrival of the old Finch.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, mention the words that show movement.
Movement is shown by
In
these
this
words over
paragraph.
here, that arise, fleetness that she enters here. Sorry. A suddenness, startlement at the branch end, and alert and abrupt she glides into the tree. And then the tree trembles and thrills. It's resonating the sound and the movement mood.
Ma'am, please mention the adjective used in this paragraph for goldfinch.
Goldfinch, barred face, identity mask. So this is basically, as I said, that it is the face is striped. It's a bar, very black and gold, very peculiar to the bird.
Okay, ma'am. And we have taken all the possible questions from this Laburnum top, I think, and you have explained very well, ma'am. And I think the students have understand stanza by stanza, paragraph by paragraph, and you have explained very well paragraph by paragraph, every word and every words and word meanings very well, ma'am. Thank you for this nice session and informative session, ma'am. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you for being here, Kusum. Thank you so much.
So dear students, if you have any questions, any queries, any suggestions regarding today's topic, you can call us on our number, and you can also email us, and you can know that our email ID is dth.class11@cit.nic.in. So dear students, don't go anywhere. There is one more session, that is session of Hindi. So stay connected to PMeVIDYA channel. Namaskar.